the best teams in the league, regardless of what anyone can say. And I need to bring the information that JDXL picked yet a red side.
Oh, so they've done it. All right. Okay, so the logic checks, right? I mean, that's what we were kind of feeling. And one thing I noticed against Dusty, and I think we saw it in that game as well, is that they tend to really thrive when they have, again, winning jungle, winning top matchup in terms of the impact they can have in top lane, in terms of the laning phase, and in jungle in terms of how they can impact the map. I think that's where they should aim. And if they're choosing red side for those counter picks to achieve that, that should work. It checks out.
It seems like they have the plan crossed out for the second game. What do you think is going to happen on this one?
I mean, I just think it's good to know, because they know for sure that blue side is the most picked, right, over like LEC and all that stuff. I think it's just respectable to realize, okay, guys, maybe it's not for us. We picked the red side against X7. I think this, for sure they have a better chance this time around.
I would say both sides favored both teams. At this point, I say JDXL is going to fare better with counter picks. X7 is better at muscling versus JDXL. So I think it's going to be a tough of strength. And talking about test, well, we wanted to see where you fall upon. Who do you favor right now, Twitch chat? So that's why we made a vote. So let's showcase where the Twitch chat, by the way, Twitch chat has been correct 90% out of time. So on playoffs, Twitch chat is big. Look this.
Oh, that's better than me.
There's smurfing.
Nice.
69. Stop the count.
Stop the count. It's stopped. 69 versus 31. It checks out.
I mean, based off of that game, it absolutely does, right? And, we have talked a lot about the XL kind of thing, and because we are now sat here thinking, how the hell does XL take a game off X7? How the hell does XL come back into this series? Because X7 was that damn good in game one, and we know that the other teams in the league very much regard X7 as one of the strongest teams out there that they have yet to face. Whether they're good enough to beat Dusty, if they meet them in the finals, that'll be a great series to see. But in this game one, they showcased their raw individual strength being tempered by actually good amount of coherency in there too. They are becoming a very scary team.
And they're looking for that main stage for JDXL. They need to do something else on this second game. What do you reckon is with the red side?
I mean, obviously, right, just we talked a lot about this in the pre-show, like getting Kryze on a comfortable matchup where Dan can play proactively. I think this is for sure what JDXL has to do. And with red side, it's kind of transparent what they want to do. But we just have to sit here and watch, right? I'm just really, once again, I'm just kind of surprised that they didn't go for the blue side, but I'm really happy about that fact.
Well, to start the game, I know you guys at Twitch chat are saying, can we start the game? Cassis, please press the button. No, man, I'm going to give you the honors.
Don't destroy the table this time.
Well, there we go. We're going to start this second game of playoffs. This is lower brackets final. JDXL versus X7. First game was totally on X7's side. Let's see if the Zeri is coming across yet again, because so far I see a lot of AD carries for Attila that has the 26-minute rule.
And as you were just mentioning that, right, we saw in that game, he got the 3 minutes, 3 items at 26:10. 27-minute mark, they start Nashor, they get a fight going, even though Dan was complete hero for JDXL, it didn't matter. They won the fight, and after that, it was just clean from X7. This 26-minute rule, we meme about it a lot, but it applies almost every single time.
I brought in the 26 minutes back in the day because that's the amount of time that Attila needs to get 3 items. And when he gets 3 items, there's nothing you can do to stop him. So even though it's a meme, it actually checks out. So most of the focus so far from X7 resides yet again on the mid lane, removing Morozku from the game.
And I think that makes a lot of sense, right? When you know that Morozku is a person who plays a set of champions very, very well. They are of a similar archetype, though. They are the typically high mobility playmaking assassins. A lot of them are melee as well. The Ahri's kind of the odd one out with that. But with all of these bans on the table, Zeri's left open, and much like Upset and Fnatic, I think Attila is one of these players which makes me rethink the Sivir-Zeri matchup. When Attila gets their hands on this champion, I don't think that Sivir is actually the better version of Zeri like I would do in other player matchups.
That's my question now. Do you pick the Sivir? Do you reply with the Sivir? Or is there anything to reply versus the Attila Zeri?
Ooh, oh, you know what we can
He's
do?
Back!
It's not the AD carry, but it's FGG Rel. Talked about him in pre-game 1. He can be a difference maker. This guy, again, this hotshot zero to hero superstar going up from like amateur to top of NLC. He's on his favorite, most famed champion in that Rel.
Oof. I mean, this is just what I love to see, right? I saw FGG pulling up some of the best montage play. I mean, this guy is just popping off, as Arsham loves from me to hear. On this rel, they actually decide to not go for the Sivir. The thing about this, which I like, we talked a lot about this. I think you in Trouble, Nightmare, you talked about this. What do you really counter with the Zeri, right? You can match with the Sivir, but then you're kind of forced to pick the Jarvan because if you don't, the other team will, but often other than that, you don't want to play the Jarvan into the Zeri, right? Now, this adaptation is really good. Now you can third pick the Severe if you want, and then you can kind of leave the Jarvan to ban.
But you've already locked in that Wukong, right? So you got the Wukong Rel. You know you're going to have like these big, like clustered up, clumped up team fights. And for Swain is in the middle of that, we know exactly what Temp can do on that. So if you're going towards less of kind of like the slightly more ranged engagement, diving straight into it, that Swain gets quite problematic. Now, I think JDXL will say, well, it's all well and good you have a Swain, but if he takes enough damage, he just dies. If you have everyone piling in, including Rozku's famed Yone, one of his favorite champions too, maybe they have enough to burst through that drain tank front line.
If it doesn't go with one brother, go to the other one and expect results. This is exactly what he's doing right now.
What are you saying here?
I'm just saying that I think Yone is a Nightmare and Yasuo is Initialize.
So, therefore, the Yone will win.
Because Yasuo clearly is the loudest of them both.
What is going on? I zoned out for a bit.
Okay. I always go for the crazy picks, by the way, chat. I know you have a lot of new viewers, so welcome to the NLC. I'm going to pop it up. I'm going to bring it up. I think Samira would be amazing right here.
It works really well with the Rel, actually, and it allows you to go...
Yone has a knock-up. Wukong has a knock-up.
I agree with that, and I think that it does work in terms of the kill lane. It helps you give that option to snowball through. It means you have to win early game again, though, and they didn't do that last game. So while I agree with that angle, it's risky.
Yeah, the thing about, as you're mentioning it too, right, you already have the Yone, the Wukong, the Rel, 3 melee champions. Tempt or they lock the Swain, man. If you lock Samir as well, you're kind of...
Ooh, goody, another melee.
Swain too.
So
I mean,
you're
it's
what,
kind of the wet dream, right? And we see, actually, when they're going for the Tristana, this is once again, as you said right now, Namir, they have to snowball the early game.
No, but the thing with the Tristana is that at least you can punt the Swain out with the ult, and you can get to a point where in hyper late game, you can just get rid of those carries. This lane in the Tristana Rel is one which I thought we'd be seeing actually halfway through spring when Tristana was buffed, got like 50 bonus HP, base HP, even before we started seeing durability patch come in. It just meant that Tristana could brawl earlier. If you can start getting on top of the Renata and the Zeri in this lane, you don't get to stop that matchup very, very easily. This Tristana could do a lot of work if JDXL were willing to play around it.
And we talked about this so much, right? FUG being kind of the zero to hero for JDXL. Now he's on kind of his signature pick. And we also talked about how it's just so important for him to kind of link up with Dan. And this game, he can really do that. Sure, you can play towards that bot side to Venser with the Tristana, but he's going to win that matchup 1v1 against the Zeri 100% of the time. FUG is going to be unlocked this time around, and I'm just really excited now for seeing what JDXL can bring.
But if we have, you know, signature champions XYZ positions, Viking on his Rek'Sai.
Oh my god, I didn't even see that.
So, matching a little bit of early game with a little bit of early game, the Rek'Sai's come out to play.
Oh, I mean, this is what I said, right? I had it in my draft as well. I was getting trolled a bit for it. Viking really, fits really well with his team. I mean, this game is going to be spicy, man. This is going to be a banger.
But the Sejuani comes back. This time it's going to be in the top lane, and it is the counter-pick top lane that we were waiting for. So, JDXL, now they have a whole lot of engage. I'm sat here looking at XL's comp, and I think XL have a great way to finish off that first person really, really easily. You kill the first target into the fight well. What that means is that Kasing is going to have to be on absolute double duty here. That ultimate, that hostile takeover has to be very, very good to punish JDXL's engages. And also, that bailout can really thwart what XL want to do. I think it's a much more even draft this time around. I think this is going to be a fun one.
Yeah, I mean, I just have to agree with you, right? I think JDXL, I talked about how in game one you can kind of throw out the punches and see what happens, but now I really wanted them to have their kind of identity, right? And they really put their cards on the table. I really like what I'm seeing.
Then put the cards on the table and give me a name. Who do you think is going to win without any sort of analysis?
Okay, so I said... Yeah. I wrote in my notes, if X7 wins game one, it's going to be a 3-0. But you should never go back on your word. But I will do it this time around. I think JDXL will go 1-1 this time.
Okay, so it's going to be JDXL. What about you, Nightmare? He's lost. He's lost, guys.
No, I'm going with XL.
XL?
I like the comp. I think it's much easier. I think it's much easier to play this time, and I don't think you've got as strong a solo lane matchups to really abuse your individual strength as X7 this time. I think XL have a window here.
So it's Twitch chat versus the analyst. Let's see who's going to be correct. On one side, you have a team with a lot of early power and late game X7. On the other side, it's a team filled with knockups from JDXL. We call it the Wingardium Leviosa. As we toss it to the casters, take it away.
That joke was so bad it drove me to tears, like green tears. But I've joined him. Of course I have. I'm on board with everybody else. I've gone full emo, but I'm here. And Trouble's like
I
looking
like the
very
green.
serious.
Matches your shirt.
There you go.
Also, I'll agree with Hasher. I'm talking about the Twitch analysts that are superior than us. I will always agree with that.
I wasn't going to say anything because I work with you all, but the game is on. And that means we have to head on to the Rift. X7 took game 1 by storm. Some good defensive play from XL made it competitive, but they could not close the gap. Can they do it in game 2?
I'm just going to say, competitive is just not good enough if your name is JDXL. You haven't made the EU Masters since 2021 Spring. You failed 2021 Summer. You failed 2022 Spring. And right now you're faced to going through play-ins, potentially facing LFL teams that will beat you, not allow you to get out of that main stage. If you're XL, anything but finals is a failure. If you're X7, it's even worse, because you're the reigning champions of the NLC. Anything but #1 is a failure. So both of these teams putting their names and their legacies in the NLC on the line right here, facing each other for the first time in a best-of series scenario. And I think it's really interesting how we completely swapped territories and battlefields, if you will. X7 have gone for more of an early game territorial gameplay where Viking goes back to his roots, his beloved Rek'Sai. He's very strong on the champion. He showed us over in Spring when he was playing Dusty what he can do. But the difference right here is that Viking is going to have to actually be active in the early game to get that Rek'Sai going. So far, we've talked about so much about how stellar the X7 laners are and how insane their laning phase is, that they're always ahead and that Viking doesn't necessarily have to do anything. Right here, he has the chance with an early game champion to actually impact that early game and make an even bigger gap between X7 and JDXL. On the other hand, for XL, going back to the old dusty bot lane roots, if you will, FGG and Venza on the Rel Tristana combo used to be Rel and Samira. But right now, Venza is going to be playing onto the Tristana, keeping a little bit more of a distance between himself and that Zeri. And it's literally, for JDXL, a pile-up combo.
And this, I believe, is Viking's 12th game ever on the Rek'Sai. It's one of his most favored champions, and about a 3.5 KD on it, so not super bad. Not the best win rate, just shy of 50%. But something we saw in Spring was a massive part of how they found early aggression as Chasey chunks out the Sejuani very early on. Got the level advantage too right now.
Now, the thing is, looking about the top lane, that we saw a little bit of a gap when it comes to Chasey playing that Fiora in the previous game. Cries onto the Gwen was not able to stop him at all. So right here, Cries is put on Ornn duty, if you will, this time on a Sejuani.
Ganko's out there in tears.
To press R, to try and engage, to find these openings for your team. And Chasey this time, he's not necessarily on a split push threat, if you will. He's going to be trying to looking for those picks and having 4 melees on the side of XL, piling up on a member of X7. These casts, these body slams are going to come into huge use for the side of X7.
Vikings gone for a very early invade, knowing Dan's on the other side. Should take that away. We'll have a tunnel available as well, so just gets on out. And Dan going to be down his Grump, which is a fair chunk of that early XP. Everyone else from JDXL, they're going to come and try and take a hold of this Scuttle Crab. I don't know whether they want to try and fight this, though, to X7.
Thing is, Dan doesn't have an easy way of getting the Scuttle Crab because Wukong usually has big use of the Smite. He doesn't have any form of CC to break the shield onto the Scuttle Crab. So usually you'll see Wukong use the second Smite on that Crab if they want to secure a Crab away.
Oh, massive never move. Roscu has to flash straight away.
He wishes he played Yasuo now.
Yeah, I know, right? Maybe we'll take this opportunity as well as, actually, I don't know about this one, as Cries is teleported back with only 3 CS to come back and maybe trade onto Chasey here, but
Viking's making his way up. He does have his flash available, so if Cries overextends, he does know that the Rek'Sai is going towards the top side of the map. Viking actually showed in the mid wave, and he showed going towards the top side. So Cries, of course, there is no flash played on the Sejuani. It's usually teleport and ignite, and that's the case for Cries. But right here, his wave is going to be pushing, but Dan is going to be around to aid. He's on a level 3 Wukong, though, versus a level 4 Rek'Sai.
Yeah, always a bit of a risk. And, of course, Viking's going to pull away from it for now. And, of course, Dan's rightly pinging that one out, saying, look, he just took the Scuttle on the bot side. He'll be going for the one on the top. Got to be aware that that Rek'Sai is lurking, especially having seen him go across the mid lane just beforehand. And let's take that opportunity maybe to talk about Roscu here a little. As a player who's really had a bit of a glow-up from his rough entrance to the league in quite difficult circumstances, coming into playoffs with just a little bit more time, has been a much stronger player. Still a bit of room to grow, though, however.
I think mostly confidence is the key here for Roscu. making sure that he is given the opportunity and the space and the place and the time to actually shine on these individual high skill ceiling champions that he likes to play. The Salases, the Aries, the Akalis, of course all banned through the picks and bans, but you can see how XL really relies on his mechanical prowess to make the plays for them, and through the regular Season 2 playoffs you'll see that a lot of the things have gone better for him. He doesn't fall that much behind in laning phase, his KDA has improved, kill participation. XL was not known to be a team to play around mid lane. It's mostly dive bot lane or dive top
and let the mid lane do what they want, right? Exactly. And the problem is, I'm going to hot swap this one straight over to Temp, because the problem is, that's all well and good, but you're looking at arguably the best damn mid lane numbers in the league. Nearly 80% kill participation. And a holy 778 DPM.
This is what makes Viking go down to 50% kill participation in the early game, because this guy takes the kills on his own, and very rightly so. Look at his numbers, his KP, 80% almost. That is more than a jungler, that is more than a support that we would usually typically see as an average for both of these two that usually like to roam them up and create opportunities. Talking about creating opportunities, Viking has found Dan. Level 4 versus level 5.
Yeah, gonna do a lot of damage here, and the problem is this Rek'Sai early is probably gonna win that trade. Bot lane play, though, Attila's gonna go over the wall, and Dan is here. Ignites down, but now the turnaround on defense, it could be a bit tricky as Vikings around throwing out the Prey Seeker, but not gonna go for anything more. Has got a wall, though. Is he gonna be very aggressive here? Be spotted out by that ward in the bush. I think they'll be safe enough for now.
And Attila this time, because he's not playing into the Renata and he's not playing into the Sejuani in the jungle, he's running Ghost instead of Flash.
Handshake out of the rocket jump means Venza now has to flash. I genuinely thought Viking would flash for the knock-up to boot that one up afterwards, but Venza gets out alive.
I think Venza has done a few oopsies in the lane, if you will. The cleanse was up and available. He could have cleansed with a rocket jumped away, if you will. Burns his flash, very crucial now, means that Viking is gonna have his sights towards the Yordle down in the bot lane. Venza, who has been known to fall a far too many times in the laning phase and actually getting Attila ahead, is something that has been a win con for X7, even from very early into the laning phase. So why not take that advantage of the fact that Tristana does not have flash available? Now, saying that, of course, during that exchange, a lot of summoners were burnt from the side of X7. Attila did fall very, very low, and it shows you how lethal that Rel Tristana combo is. They both jumped in.
Handshake
No
is
flash.
so good, but there is the flash on Burrow. First blood for Kasing, and Rel can try and ride out on that pale horse, but unfortunately, it'll be the death chamber for you as Viking levels up and comes leaping out with the R.
And we've been looking for Viking's aggression ever since he locked his Rek'Sai. We're like, we know you can shadow for your lanes. We know you can facilitate for them. Can you be the carry and the early game aggression that they need when you have the Rek'Sai? The answer is yes. 100% kill participation, 2 deaths down for JDXL on that bot lane. And if we look at this again, they're going in. Beautiful handshake from Kasing to stop FGG mid-air, and the second Venza dives in. We know that his flash is already gone. FGG doesn't have his flash available either, and because Dan is not level 6, he cannot participate in this fight. Really nicely played towards the bot side for X7, and 2,000 gold in the lead, only 8 minutes in. And of course, we mentioned it with the Rek'Sai, you need to get ahead in the early game for the champion to have some sort of importance. Because come the late game, there's way too many beefy players on the side of XL, which Rek'Sai will not have a very good time versus.
Doing their very best to make sure that's still playable, the 2 kills are still gone over. And the thing is, it's still going to be quite difficult if Tempt and Kasing are on point to get to Attila. You've got all these beefy frontliners, but you've still got to run the gauntlet of the Demonic Ascension, of the hostile takeover, and Attila with early advantages could be a bit scary.
You know, I feel like we have also criticized a little bit the positioning of Kasing and the laning phase. I think Kasing, regular speed versus playoffs, it feels like the guy goes through some sort of buff. He really wants to get into that EU Masters, and he's showing up for it. I feel like when it comes to a lot of the Renatas, if you look over on the LCK and on the LPL, the supports right there can stop a Lucian mid-E with Renata handshake. As I'm saying, this Viking has found FGG. FGG has to dash away, and there's 4 members of X7 down there. I think XL really have to respect that. They're about to get, like, tower dive. Venza needs to be out of dodge immediately.
There's Tempt, a big knock away for now, but Viking will make sure it's a rush of Void to the head. Massive kill as Tempt demonically ascends, and Maybe FGG can survive for a little bit longer, but they just drop the aggro. They run back to him. They'll knock him up. Viking goes on a killing spree. Kasing stopwatches the tower shot, and that is a much cleaner dive than game one.
Big blunder from JDXL. You know your map is towards the top side of the map. You know that everyone from your team is top side of the map. There is no TP on Christ to join. There is no TP on Roscoe to join. You should not stay underneath the tower. FGG read the memo. Venzer did not. He played aggressive, he pushed forward. There's 4 members of X7 down the bottom of the map. They play that dive flawlessly. You see how they've been exchanging a lot of the tower aggro. You see how they're waiting for each other's CC to come off of cooldown before they engage onto the second member. Another flawless dash from X7 and JDXL. That bottle has been a head scratcher for 2 games in a row.
Big knock up there, and Christ, low enough here that Viking, if he can make this one work, goes straight in with the Prowler's Claw to the knock-up. We'll now need to think about using a Void Rush, but it's just not needed. It's still on cooldown, and JC will tame the kill anyway.
I'll say your favorite phrase, 100%
Oh, yes.
kill participation for Viking on that Rek'Sai. He was the facilitator, now he is the carry on his favorite champion, and JDXL are looking for a dive bot lane, but Tempt is the first one on the rotation.
Yeah, there's actually a really good Never move there into the Visions of Empire. Means Dan gets chunked out perhaps a touch more than he was hoping for, but the bot lane is here to maybe ensure that this dragon goes down. There is Herald in the infantry of Dan, so that has gone down somewhere in the meantime. I think while some of the bot lane plays were happening, they'll summon it mid and use that as an option to get to this
The
dragon.
map is falling apart for JDXL. They need to get something going. Venzer is just about to face check Kasing. Very lucky right there that Kasing doesn't get the handshake off on Venzer. No flash for him in the bot side of the map, and there's 5 members, 5 versus 5. This could very well seal the deal if XL lose this fight.
FGG with a madness stop for the hostile takeover. Tries to make sure it doesn't happen as easy as they can, but Attila is taken down. Tempt to the backside though. Demonic Ascension's doing so much work. Roscu nowhere to go. Golden is Tempt, but for how much longer? Turning it around. Tempt still healing, but Venzer hops in, trying to get some autos down. For one more, Venzer brings him down. But what on the other side? Viking kill onto Roscu, and now FGG in danger. Dan gonna try and hop forward. Viking trying to go towards the tunnels. It's a 1 for 2 right now. The HP bars though of JDXL are pretty damn low, and Viking much healthier. Still has the Void Rush, and JDXL still have to back away.
There needs to be someone that does damage on the side of X7, and luckily for them, Viking is still up. He has all the kills. He has
GG's Rel is just too clean. Viking burrows his way away, but Fence is so low. Not dead yet. Viking could look for the ultimate. Needs to land the Prey Seeker. JC gets Dan. JC nearly gets Cries. My God, everyone's dying, and somehow the dragon's still alive.
This could be so bad if XL actually lost this fight. They could have actually straight up lost the game. FGG on the Rel. Rel and his name are synonymous right now in the vocabulary because he finds these freaking engages back to back to back. And as you'll see, the second Attila is out of the fight, doesn't get to flash, doesn't get to ult, he goes down instantly. Tempt doesn't have the items yet to be a wall in front of his team, to be that tanky. And that's what we mentioned about X7. The fact that, yes, you are durable, yes, you have sustain, but you are not tanky. Everyone is a pseudo-tank on the side of X7, the Rek'Sai, the Gragas, the Swain. So when everyone from XL piles up and they find this wombo combo engage that FTG provides them with, they straight up win fights.
2 sublime engages in a row from FGG in the same fight. The Dragon now about to go down. I think X7 will cede this one. They're still up a healthy amount of gold, and that Rek'Sai is a terror right now.
You know what? When it was 2021, I think it was spring, when Advin was playing for XL back then, every Rel for me was Advin.
Yeah.
I accidentally kept saying Advin instead of Rel, or the player's name, right? It was synonymous at that point. And it happened to me with Spring 2022 with FGG when he was in Dusty. The second that Rel came out, it was FGG Rel. It wasn't just Rel. Now, of course, we keep praising it. 3,000 gold still in the lead for the side of X7, 4-0-2 on this Rek'Sai. But again, if you don't start snowballing that victory with the Rek'Sai will start falling off, and there's enough beefy members talking about snowballing. A 3-member dive on that mid lane.
Roscu, Prowler's Claw, knock up. There's a Void Rush to reset the aggro. And Viking is just taking over this game.
Honestly, huge praise to Chasey as well. Pushes down his top lane wave, roams all the way to mid lane to shut down Roscoe on that Yone. I just want to reiterate how important it is to put the Yone behind, because once JDXL did this to Buckland versus in their Dusty series, Buckland never came back on that Yone. So make sure you shut down that carry potential from the mid lane on Roscoe. Is going to be huge for X7's team fights. And as you look at the inventories, you have that Rylai's, and there's 4 melee champions on the side of XL, plus Tristana that loves to dive in very close range as well. So once these slows are starting to come through, the body slams are going to start hitting, Viking is going to have space to play through, and his melee champion Attila, he's going to have a field day.
I mean, the bounce bros between Tempt to set you up and then Viking and Chasey to knock him down with all their burst.
The bounce bros.
Indeed.
Hey.
It's very difficult to play around those towers because there is so many ways to disengage, to get the burst, to get out and stay safe between, you know, 2 champions who build Zhonya's and someone who can reset aggro.
Oh, wait.
Maybe Attila, though.
Oh, they are? Oh, very clever.
Ward is
there.
very nicely placed, and they'll stay alive for now.
What will not stay alive for much longer, it seems to be that Rift Herald that both of the teams have their sights on. As you can see, JDXL are prioritizing that mid lane wave, but from that mid lane, there is Chasey coming on that Gragas. He has his ult up and available, and again, Venzer, no flash. Very unfortunate of that Twitch. Every time he didn't have flash, X7 had a target on his back and instantly destroyed him. Venzer, again, no flash here. X7 might be looking for that opportunity to get the Tristana out of the way.
No completed item on Mirage Q makes this a bit of a tricky one damage-wise. He's such a key part of the combo from JDXL. He really wants to be able to reset, get that item. It's just not going to be available right now. In fact, he's farming Raptors. I wonder whether because he's trying to get towards that item earlier on enough to make this a player's tempt. Will get engaged on by Mirage Q. I don't think it's going to lead to too much damage. There you go, down to about 3/4.
I'd say what's happening here is that if you look at Venzer, he's perma pushing that mid lane, trying to get that tower, which is very low HP. FTG is looking for that big engage.
Oh, the hostile takeover gets onto a few. And that'll force JDXL to retreat. Nothing too much more to be found. Chasey over the wall. Has to be a little afraid of Dan and FGG.
Yeah, I thought XL were trying to keep X7 busy into the river to try and get that bounty and that mid lane tower, which is going to help him so much with like finding engages with the Sejuani, but that hasn't been the case because Chasey has been roaming and rotating like a madman, protecting towers, diving mid lane, but XL have their sight still onto that tower.
They've not got much of a wave left, but they'll still get a hold of it anyway. The cask was burned to try and kill the wave, but couldn't quite happen, so it will therefore be a trade of towers. The Herald was used top. Might get a second charge, but I think Kryze should have the opportunity here to smack the eye. Knocked away, and I don't know whether that means there's still going to be the kill coming through. There it is, and thus that will be stopped. But that is now 2 towers down for X7 in trade of just the 1 for XL. That bot lane tower's not particularly healthy either for
Very
XL.
importantly, talking about bot lane, Attila, in his first game, is not that far ahead of Venza. If observers, we can toggle onto gold real quickly. You'll see that these 2 AD carries, actually it's Venza,
slight lead,
200 gold lead right here. And I think it's very pivotal and very important for both of these teams to get their AD carries ahead. We've seen what Attila can do. 26 minutes in, Ashram was saying it, 3 items. That's all you get. You get 26 minutes. You don't win by then, Attila's gonna run you over when he gets 3 items. And I think it's so pivotal and important for Venza and his confidence as well. He got bullied in the previous game to actually get some resources, get ahead onto that Tristana. A more early game pop champion as well. And the next Dragon is going to be coming up in 40 seconds. Both teams are all in River, and all eyes again on FGG. Can he replicate and find these insane montage engages to get XL ahead in these fights?
He's on Viking as well, who's 3,000 gold ahead of Dan, and if he gets onto that Tristana, there ain't no getting away from that, and Venzer's going to have to position as well as he can as Chasey, isn't he? Just looking here. Close prison lands, in goes Mirage Q, but it's not enough time to tell us still staying alive. On the other side, Venzer! Void Rod deletes him! Viking gets his mark, Dan has to flash away. Viking goes after him. Tempt on the other side is a demonic god amongst men, and there is no way, no how to go out of that one. Faker would be pleased indeed, the unkillable Demon King in the mid lane, proving why from the LCK he came. And the LCK may go back one day because he is playing out of his mind this series. 13-3, X7. This game is feeling done.
X7 take all 18 minutes into the game. 7,000 gold in the lead. 6-0 and 4 for the madman in the jungle. Viking, who has been in the background for most of the games with X7, but he's straight up in the foreground. Even though Kryze hits a fantastic ultimate, finds Attila into the backline, there is no follow-up. You know why? Because Tempt is stopping them all. And we mentioned how this could potentially be a problem for JDXL. You have 4 melee members and a very low range AD carry that loves to dive in. And this guy plays the Swain. Swain is one of these champions that wants to create space between himself and his carries. And his carries were completely untouched this fight. And again, major props to Viking, who is absolutely tearing apart this game on one of his favorite champions.
The problem is Venzer is just going to be target number 1 every single fight. If he gets hit by a Q, if he's in range for a Prowler's Claw, he's in so much danger as Tempt. will find Dan, but he's got 3 levels on him and a Rylai's.
Who found who then?
Yeah, exactly. I don't know how afraid Temp was right there, let's be real. And on the other side, I mean, it's just a 2-level discrepancy in the jungle. That's always a scary point to be in. At this point, feels like Dan's not going to have an easy chance of getting back into the game because his camps are going to start getting taken on repeat, on cooldown by X7.
And that's going to be the problem right here. You losing so many towers, that means also your carries start bundling up to try and push a wave, whether it's in the mid lane or the top lane, which means you start sharing even more XP, which means you start falling further and further behind. And right now, if we look at the level discrepancy, you mentioned the 2 levels in the jungle. We have 1 level in the bot lane as well between Venzer and Attila. Attila has his second point on his ultimate as well. It's going to be hurting that much more, getting that many more stats. And we were worried, we were questioning, can Viking play the early game? Can he snowball the lead onto the Rex side? The answer to the question is absolutely freaking yes. But again, the usual suspects are having fantastic performances. Chasey on these Gragas, something completely different than the Fiora, 4, 1, and 5. Tempt on his Swain. I mean, we knew Tempt on the Swain and anything of that sort, absolutely showing up as well. And I feel like for X7, shutting down that mid lane was so much more important than shutting down bot, because it feels like if mid lane falls apart for XL right now, there doesn't seem to be any reply.
No.
I feel like a lot of the big hype-ups we've had, Chasey versus Kryze has not lived up to the expectation of this matchup. Mrosku fighting towards them. Mrosku hasn't necessarily showed up too much in game number 2, and if anything, the veterans from the side of JDXL need to step up.
They've got to hold their ground. The problem is now the second item's complete for X7. You're still only on the 1 complete on the other side from XL, and that power discrepancy in completed items is such a big talking point. The LPL teams are so famous for making those plays when there is not that full item discrepancy, where you just take the Hail Mary, and now it's such a difficult position. The Edge of Night on Viking as well means he's so hard to prevent. Can they take off that Edge of Night? He's going to find Tempt on the side! The Demonic Attempted is in. He's taken very low, though. My God, maybe they can find the kill. Not quite. He stays alive. The hostile takeover sends everyone berserk. Dan, with his clone, will get out to safety, but the mid lane tower falls. No one dies on either side yet as Attila throws down the lightning crash, and the health bar advantage means they can run onto the inhibitor turrets.
Wow, X7 are taking actually everything away. As you will see, Tempt is going to TP back. I'm not sure if he's going to change into a teleport in his spellbook as he used both of his summoners, but right now X7 are just running away with everything. They're 9,000 gold, 8,000 gold, sorry, in the lead right here. And honestly, I think that Yone has been a little bit of a head scratcher for me. I think Rel has been getting such fantastic ultimates that the Yasuo would have insta-engaged straight into the backline. Kryze has been finding some pretty good engages with the ultimate. There is no follow-up, and I feel like all this bundle up and ball of death that JDXL want to do, that Gragas is disrupting it over and over again. I think if you're JDXL, you're either praying for Hail Mary, a really insane team fight where X7 all bundle up, Chasey is not there to bail them out with that big ultimate, or you just start going straight back to the drawing board and be like, okay, blue side, this didn't work, red side, this didn't work. What do we change, boys? Because now they've tried both.
Yeah, and you can see, you know, Attila working his way towards an Infinity Edge. You've got the Imperial Mandate and the Warden's Mail now in for Tempt, so he's getting increasingly difficult to deal with. He's gone for the Exhaust, actually, interestingly, to try and deal with the first person that ends up in his range who's anything resembling a threat. But it's double stopwatch for the jungle and top lane of X7. There's that Edge of Night as well. It's so hard to actually shut these carries down on top of everything.
Also, something that I've noticed here is that Kasing plays a lot more with facilitating items rather than more aggressive items. FTG played the Renata with the Aurelius, and right here Kasing is prioritizing keeping his carries alive since his team is a little bit more squishy than game 1. He goes towards the Mikhail's first item when he plays the likes of Lulu, and Chasey is looking for Venza.
Yeah, we all got a bit nervous there. I was like, oh my, you didn't get this rocket jump right. Does Casey throw out the cask? He does not. And the explosives are kept dry for now. A little ironic considering it's alcoholic, but there we go. 5 seconds on the Infernal Dragon, though, and this will be second Dragon for either team. I just don't think JDXL are in any position to contest, unfortunately.
And the only good thing for JDXL, I'm trying to draw silver linings here for a game that seems as pretty much as done.
Just like white crayon on the wall. Yeah, that's silver, right?
We have one dragon. We have one dragon, which means they get to delay Soul for 10 more minutes at this point. In 10 minutes, what can you get? Potentially, that shield bow onto Mrosku could be huge. A second item onto the Wukong, you need that Sandra to start putting down some damage. And on the other hand side, I think Kryze, not sure exactly what item he's going for. It looked to be like the Frozen Heart, but I don't know if Frozen Heart is Very big
that's
value right
that's a
here.
bit of a what's it, a bargain bucket sale, garage sale, all of that
Jet
kind
sale.
of things. Yeah, that's it. There you go.
Yeah.
They saved me there from my mix of metaphors. Either way, yeah, he's kind of got some magic resist. He's got the moon, is it the moon plate? Is the name of that, the little trouser thing he's got in there. Like, I'm curious to see what he actually does go towards. It's just been a difficult game in some ways, and the problem is, Venza at 3 items might have a chance, but he's got to stay alive, and they need to hold on. Baron's definitely a potential threat now as well.
I think JC has been a huge problem, whether he's on Fiora, whether he's more from a team fight champion. He's such a huge problem, and Roscoe drops the Shieldborn nonsense that I was talking about, goes straight for the Kraken Slayer. JDXL are ringing the bell of SOS right now. We need damage.
Yeah.
We need, when that Sejuani and when that Rel ult hit, we need all in. And that 3-second, 2-second window that you have, where the CC piles up, you need to have killed something or you lose.
And yeah, you need to hit the heart and hit it hard. The problem is the heart on the other side is frozen for Tempt. That's going to be pretty frustrating versus the double order attackers.
Talking about killing someone in 2 to 3 seconds, that's going to be slightly delayed.
Yes. Might well just be a
alongside
bit.
all the hourglasses and the stopwatches on the side of X7, alongside all of the level that they're up towards their opponents right here. X7 are trying to pull XL straight into this pit. Dan, level 11 versus level 14s around him, and XL, can they find a way into the speed? Dan stole the Baron, in game number 1, but I think right here X7 are looking for a fight.
Knocks back Rel, and he's just going to disappear. Golden goes Viking, that's the stopwatch burn. Roscoe, though, fate sealed to the backside, but everyone's dying because Attila murders 2. Roscoe goes back with the soul unbound, but his soul is bound straight for the afterlife, it feels like. Ultra Shock laser tags him, and the slow will be enough, surely, to ensure the burst fire takes him out as well. Cries alone remains, but XL collapse in their own red side jungle.
Back to the fountain and back to the drawing board for JDXL. They had double side selection. They chose blue, they chose red. X7 beat them in both of their side selections. X7 beat them in both of their types of games. X7 are showing versatility. You want a jungle that will facilitate? He's there. You want a split pusher? He's there. You want late game? It's there. You want team fight? It's there. What does XL have to break this apart? Because they just look undefeatable at this point.
Marauding from the Isle of Man, X7's jungler will head straight towards the London team and take everything from them. What a game it's been from here. Let's get this fight again, because Attila murders everybody.
And I think this Rel has been a big problem. Therefore, X7 are like, you see Rel, you kill Rel. They have so many levels advantage onto that Rel, they can actually absolutely destroy her. And once FGG cannot get these big, insane engages onto the backline that he's done over and over again in this game, XL just fall apart, and honestly, they have been seen to be falling apart this entire game. Maybe this is a Hail Mary last fight, find them into a choke point, but choke points don't do them any favors because Infernal map actually kills all these choke points and gets them up a little bit wider.
Yeah, the gold lead is looking increasingly more like infinite, like you can see in Attila's inventory alongside the stopwatch. It's so hard. Those item discrepancies, the level event discrepancies, and now with the Baron on top as well, JDXL have a last gasp before they are put to bed in this game. What can they do? Is there a miracle to be found?
XL are gonna have to say goodbye to this one, and oh my god, FTG loses half his HP from a Gragas barrel. That is what 6 levels difference does between these two champions, and FTG is looking. Yes, well, Flash.
Turns out the innkeeper knows how to handle his drink a little better than the patrons, unfortunately, and Gragas, this AP build, Chasey is causing absolute destruction as Viking leads in things like this type. FGG is going to try. It's a good engage, but there's just too much damage. There's just too much AP. Chasey survives. He's bailed out. I think he might fall. Didn't get involved in that kill, so will finally get turned down. But either way, it's still a 5-for-1. Either way, it's X7 marching to a second victory. It was more dominant than the first. And Vikings Rek'Sai was always a thing to be feared. And JDXL have found out first hand. Fear the Queen of the Xerxai.
Hey man, if you're buying, I'm in. And I'm really into this X7 lineup because we had worries and we had questions. Will this team be better than their previous iteration? Reigning champions of spring. EU Masters quarterfinals, EU Masters favorites to win it all over in spring, just to fall to LDLC in quarters. We had many questions coming in. With this roster, Viking steps in more than halfway through, and this man has not seen defeat yet. He hasn't.
He lost one game to Bifrost.
He didn't lose the series, doesn't matter.
Exactly. As far as it's concerned, Viking is undefeated where it matters. And what a game to throw a different style out and absolutely demolish. X7 2-0 up in the series, 1 game away from a finals appearance. But to the desk we go.
Exactly, Initialize. We are 1 game away from going into a clean 3-0 X7 to finals. And before we talk about that, we're evolving.
Well, you see, XL were looking to change the tides. Instead, they were washed away by the X7 tsunami and are now staring down the barrel of what is an incredibly terrifying team.
Now, our makeup artist today, Maria, she's smurfing. I'm telling you guys, she's a magic. Okay, let's talk about this game because Rek'Sai at the beginning of the game has a lot of priority, and one thing we get to see from Viking is using that champion to allow late-game champions to rotate through the map and demolishing everything.
And I think this is a very intelligent pickup. One, it's something which Viking is very comfortable with. It is a signature champion for Viking. And it's also a great pick against a team which maybe is trying to figure out that communication between junglers and lanes and supports, right? If there are going to be mistakes of a couple of seconds where Rek'Sai can get into a lane, that champion does work. And that's what we saw in the early game.
I would like to bring the replay from that early play where Rek'Sai completely demolishes everything on a tower dive. The way they execute this, the reading of the map, MTES, it's perfect.
I mean, I feel like this just kind of speaks about how the series is going so far. I mean, this execution on the dive is so perfect. I was actually saying the green or here, they probably are happy with just backing off. They don't have to go for this dive, right? But they are just thirsty for blood. And they managed to perfectly... I mean, Kassin gets the aggro as well. He knows he has the stopwatch. And they all get out safely. That is illegal.
By the way, I don't know if you noticed, but that stopwatch came into effect as soon as Tristana died. They were like, okay, now we have stopwatch, we can slow it down.
Because the kill unlocks it earlier. Yeah, you know, I actually didn't realize that.
Everything goes accordingly to X7's plan. Like their shot calling, their team fight, everything is prowess after prowess. It's complicated for JDXL to play this game.
Oof. I think he was mentioning as well, really fast, about the signature pick from Viking. I remember this guy, this dirty little abuser, playing duo queue at night at 4 AM, playing Rek'Sai only. This is how this guy was climbing. Like, I'm calling you out right now, Viking. Like, that's how you've been doing things. But playing it on stage in a best of 5 and completely popping off, I mean, respect, Viking, respect.
We're going to bring another replay for you guys about how Viking rotates with that lead. And this is really interesting because we were talking about his stats and the way they sucked, and he completely just...
Oh, yeah, he heard us talking smack.
Look at him.
He's looking at this and is like, right, time to do some damage. And just like immediately deletes the AD carry, gets on top of the jungler. Like when Rek'Sai gets ahead, remember, this champion is an assassin. This champion gets to absolutely demolish targets as long as you can stick to them. When you have something like a Prowler score, that really helps. And Viking is everywhere in this fight.
I mean, I just have to kind of agree with the point that you made up, Arsham, as well. When you're playing against a team that is trying to figure things out, just throw them the curveball, the Rek'Sai, they expected Viking to be able to play it, right? But to actually pick it, I mean, what are XL gonna do now? We were just praising them for how they kind of changed their ideas, but
it's just adding weight to all those bans he got thrown in spring. Comes back in summer and goes, yo, did you forget about this?
They're bringing so much into the table, and now I'd like to highlight this because we can put up the story of how can JDXL come back from this one? This could be a reverse sweep. I don't like that sentence today.
No.
I think is how can X7? Yeah, how can X7 completely demolish JDXL and show everybody why they can be that team that everybody was afraid of?
And Trouble put it really well at the very end of that game. X7 is showing versatility, and that's something which I'm not going to say they lacked it, but it wasn't their specialty, right? But in that second game, they showed a completely different playstyle to their first. And it was even more dominant than maybe their more classic style in that game one, where it was more through the solo lanes, having strong lanes, and then just kind of rolling over a lot of the fights as the game went on. This is really scary now, even if you're in other ERLs looking at this team, because they are headed to EU Masters play-ins or main stage, depending on how this series goes. But you look at games like this and you're like, heck, that's a lot of stuff to prepare for.
It's a lot to prepare versus X7. MTES, your final take on this one before we advance?
I mean, we talked about it in the pregame show, right? Like maybe JDXL or X7 benefits more from going to play-ins, yada. But you benefit so much from, like Viking from joining the team, they are pretty much undefeated.
Yeah.
And going directly to main stage 2 with this, it's just a huge confidence boost going maybe 3-0 today against one of the top teams in the league. I mean, X7, I mean, just hats off to you. Like, you guys have been playing really well.
We have to celebrate success. By the way, I just noticed how it reflects on the camera, your face. I mean, this is like the new Pokemon series where we have the 2-1 and that.
Choose your starter.
Choose your starter, obviously.